is Northrop Frye, right? From Canada. I think he was a biblical scholar, right? One of his books is called The Great Code. It's funny, all my important books are missing somewhere. They have escaped. So I have The Great Code, but I don't have The Anatomy of Criticism, which is actually the biggest book Northrop Frye wrote, right? And it's a brilliant read. I really recommend it. You should read it. I read it for my master's, for my Shakespeare class. What he's saying is, okay, we are doing brilliant criticism, but we are doing it piecemeal here and there on this poem or this poem. We don't have a larger system. We need a larger system of criticism, okay, where our approach to literary text is systemic, right? And he goes on to then create that system. What does he rely on, right? So if you read Anatomy of Criticism, he's going to some form of a Jungian understanding of the archetypes, right? So he's saying, like, just like everything else, right, literature can be bracketed or deposited into 4 basic archetypes, right? So that he calls the mythos, right? What is a mythos? The mythos of spring, the mythos of winter, the mythos of summer, the mythos of autumn. So these are the 4 mythos that he creates. In order to apply them, he reads Shakespeare's plays and divides them into these 4 mythos. So I could be getting it wrong, but all the comedies are mythos of summer, right? All the tragedies are mythos of winter, the histories and everything else. So then he says, okay, if a play belongs in the mythos of spring, these are some of the characteristics it will have, right? And then he goes and discusses the plays. And then he also gives us vocabularies, what kind of characters a play can have. There is supposed to be a churlish character, an Aaron character. He picks these Greek names, right? And then gives us specialized vocabularies to describe where does a play fit, and because of that system, what can we expect from that play, right? And as Eagleton points out, that it also then brings out a historical reading of the plays themselves. But the history that he's invoking is not the political history or material history in which the plays were performed, but the history of criticism of the plays. So what you can then invoke is so-and-so read it like this, then so-and-so read it like this, but read from this standard, this is how it will come to pass. So how does he create that system? Is just like the sciences had done, right? So think of biology, if anyone had to take biology. So the largest is what? Kingdom, right? Then is the phylum. Within the phylum is what? Family, genre, species, and then the individual animal. So based on those taxonomy, it would be called, right? He creates this larger taxonomy of literature, right? And that book, Anatomy of Criticism, it becomes huge, right? People still use it, right? I used it somewhat for an essay or two. But so that then is a bridge figure, because he's still doing close readings of the text, but he is allowing for insertion of something outside the text, a larger structure that can define the genre of the text or its species, so to speak, within a given natural phenomena, right? These mythos are natural, the seasons and all, right? And so that then takes us out of this straitjacketing of just the text and words on the page, and places the text, still read carefully, within history, but within a larger structure which predetermines the placing of one play or one poem within a certain defining classification, right? And that is a move into something more than the text. It still won't allow you autobiographical criticism. It may still not allow you to bring in your own feelings because it has to be scientific. But what it allows you is to plot a play or a poem within a certain larger structure and then read it according to the expectations of that structure. So if he's saying Mythos of Spring, these plays fit in that, he will first give us an explanation of what is expected in Mythos of Spring, right? And then you take those assumptions and then you apply it to the play, and then you just like point out who is doing what and which character has which archetype, which character has which archetype. So you're basically categorizing them. And you're also writing about what they do within a play. But that's the difference from the new critics to Northrop Frye, right? And that's what Eagleton highlights here towards the end of this chapter. And that is kind of he being a bridge figure. So now in chapter 3, when we move to structuralism and semiotics, we have already dealt with a kind of structuralism, not language-based, remember. And we will then move into the linguistic term, right? Because you can't do structuralism without understanding Saussurean linguistics and the development of semiotics as a field of study of science. But this is that transition. Now, please keep in mind that the progression is not as linear as we have made it, right? There are other things happening too, right? There are the Russian formalists writing at the time. Mikhail Bakhtin is already writing the idea of the dialogic imagination and everything else, but he gets translated too late, right? So there are things already happening. So as we are reading it, there is this artificial linearity to this development, which we should keep in mind that it's unnatural in a way. It's what we, the critics, and everyone else has done.